trouble for Trace.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that the Shen was left up in this draft. Now, they can just go ahead and take the Karma away.
Yep. Could do Karma Sivir.
Yep. Could do Karma Sivir. Arrow has been playing more Jhin than anything else this season, but has played second most his Sivir, and they're actually going to take away the Graves early on, despite that not being a very good pick. Score has not picked it once all season.
Well, Winged has been having a lot of success, as we've been discussing, with the Thunderlord's Graves, so confident on that pick. Karma, whether it's going to be for Kuzan in the mid or Chei in bot, just going to have to wait and find out.
I think if they're prioritizing the Graves in the jungle, they're probably going to go with the Karma mid, because you really want as much power out of the Karma as possible. If you're going to be running with 2 AD carries, one out of the jungle and one out of the traditional AD carry role. So that's what I would expect, and they're going to take the Shen away.
Yep, so Shen there for Ssumday, and the Jhin as well, a big takeaway from Pilot. So Arrow going to be playing that one. And this could just leave Pilot with that Sivir, as you mentioned, his second most played. It makes sense. Don't you dare!
I think they're going to take the Sivir, but KT so far, a very low engage composition. They need to find their engage out of either the jungle or the support role right now, and I hope we get to see a return to Score playing the Gragas, which he hasn't done this season, but obviously was a major pick for him at the end of last year. We keep seeing more and more Gragas.
Please. Trace, don't do it.
He did play the GP into the Irelia last time, and it was not spectacular, and
not at all.
I don't think they are going to stick with this one, but it will be a Malzahar.
Interesting. Have we seen Malzahar since his rework?
No, we have not seen a new Malzahar because the patch ended before, or the hot fix for Malzahar came in before the actual league started, so there was no chance to see him when he was in his very broken state. And what's interesting about this too is that Fly has typically been he was playing Malzahar even pre-rework last season. So for this to be played right now, what does that do into the Vladimir? Obviously, you're going to be very happy to get those silences because you can kite the Vladimir very effectively. But also, when it comes to Vlad, what you're trying to do is stop him from doing a lot of healing and sustained damage over time. So getting off the Nether Grasp onto him and focusing him down is going to be probably something you'll be happy to do. I mean, and pretty easy because he has to play in the front line.
I mean, you'll also be negating his big disengage in the Sanguine Pool if you get the Nether Grasp onto him, because you can just snatch him, keep him locked in the plates, and have everybody focus fire him before he can escape.
Now, I like what they did with the pivot, though, is that they see the Malzahar, and then they immediately go ahead and take the Kindred. Because what they're saying is, okay, we know your strategy is to burst down this Vladimir, which you're going to be able to do with Graves Burst, the Karma damage, and they're just saying, okay, well, we're going to keep him alive long enough so, as you were stating, you can get the Sanguine Pool off after the Nether Grasp ends if the Kindred ult is on top of him. So you can just sit there spamming his W and get out of that situation without dying. So I think it's a really nice adaptation that KT had.
Yep, now fiddling around with this last pick. Okay. It's a Bard, so it's Bard support, and it's a Malzahar top.
Well, there you go. Well, that throws that out the window, Achilles.
Alrighty.
It's still going to be good against Vlad in the team fights. Now, Trace has been known for some very weird picks. He was the one last year who really started off the Morgana top trend that caught around the world, and he was also the one this year that started off the Graves top trend that caught on around the world. So looking for a lot of harassment here, and I don't know really how well Malzahar does in a 1v1 versus Shen. Obviously, the dodge field will not be a relevant factor too much, and he will be able to push. And one thing is that we'll have to keep an eye on what he actually starts to Max here, because the Malefic Visions will push the lane very quickly,
Yeah.
and there's a common thread around what Trace plays in terms of innovative picks in the top lane, is that they all push really hard. What Trace will do is he'll shove the lane relentlessly, deal chip damage to your turret, and then take a global gold lead off of the pressure. Shen with a very low wave clear, not able to build a quick Sunfire cape, is going to have a lot of problems in a 1v1 versus this Malzahar, that's for sure. And then when it transitions into the team fighting, his job is going to be to try and blow up Fly before he can actually, as you said, sanguine pool or try and escape or heal up with his healing over time.
Yeah. Stand United plus the Lambs Respite. It's going to be a difficult time trying to take care of that. Hachani as well can interrupt with the Glacial Fissure, so KT does have a number of answers for it. It's really going to come down to that jungle pressure. Can Score get ahead and help Ssumday take over the match? Let's go ahead and finally get into game one, KT versus Jin Air. And of course, just for the kick in the nether regions, it's going to be a Cloud Drake to kick things off for us. I was hoping that we would have that Infernal, but
yeah,
they made us wait, and they give us a Cloud.
Yeah, one of the other interesting aspects about the reworked Malzahar against a tank in lane is that because they swapped around some of his abilities and he no longer has the percent health damage AoE, they have the Void Swarm there instead, and they tacked that on into the Nether Grasp, where the null zone still appears. It's just chained in with his ultimate right now. But at max level, I mean, we're talking about 45% with an AP ratio of the target's maximum health. So in terms of total damage, and when you couple that with Graves, especially a Thunderlord's Graves, like Wing likes to play, if he's taking out a big chunk of a tank's damage, then Winged is going to be able to come in and burst them down the rest of the way to 0. So I like this combination, and we'll have to see how it actually ends up working in this game.
Yeah, just have to get that ahead. Winged needing to provide some pressure up into that top side, get Trace rolling, because that has been the biggest struggle of Jin Air so far. We can see big invade coming through from Pilot and Chei, rotate up to the top side. Ssumday taking a hell of a lot of damage. There is an Ignite there from the Bard. Not sure how ham he wants to go. It's just going to shove them into that bottom side of the map. So Ssumday will walk away, holds on both the Summer Spell, but will be chunked.
Yeah, and we don't see a mirrored invade. A little bit late here from Hachani as Trace is going to get away with a little bit of CS down there at the bottom side. Taking a look at the records between these two teams, Jin Air beating them in both rounds of the spring, but losing to them in all the rounds last year in 2015.
Hachani does get a consolation prize. It's one of those little blue sentinels, but outside of that, not going to be a whole lot of ground gained compared to that, the work done by Chei. But interesting composition. I mean, fairly well balanced. I mean, you have technically triple AP threat with the Bard considered in there, and then the double AD from the side of Pilot Wings. It's really going to come down to how tanky they can try to get themselves.
Well, that's why I think the Kindred pick here is such a masterstroke from KT, because any burst that Jin Air is going to be trying to do will be pretty much taken away by that Kindred ultimate.
Oh boy.
And Score.
Yeah, he's going to hop over the wall to safety, but does get taken out by Winged, so nice invasion there by Jin Air.
Well, that's what happens when you try and double back in that situation. Can pay for it in that way. Now they tried to get Ssumday down into that bottom side as fast as possible and set up a 2v2 and a 1v1, but still not going to be a whole lot of advantage for Ssumday, at least early on. And looks like we are going to see standard lanes from this one forward, but Jin Air with a nice invade, nice reaction to what they were seeing. Had the pressure and so are able to walk in and take away a blue buff.
Yep, just now need to try to get some of that CS back onto Pilots. Falling behind a little bit here with the swapping around that has occurred. Arrow, doing as much as he can, would be nice to get that dirt early. Meanwhile, Trace going to get engaged on the bottom side. Ssumday waiting for the taunt. Flash already comes out, gets it, actually just misses it by a hair, and Trace will be able to walk out, but Flash will be down on that Malzahar.
Yeah, that's obviously the problem with using Malzahar in one of these longer lanes. is you are very vulnerable to any kind of gank attempts. So Score comes by with the red buff, picks off the flash, and then they get all in the next time around if they so choose, going back for double Doran's rings. Trey's definitely a fan of building a lot of early game items when he plays these push lanes. When he used to play on Graves, he would buy like 4 long swords early on and just get those as many raw stats as possible just to push the lane super hard. This time, he's going for the extra little statistical bump with 2 Doran's rings in the early game, also being very cautious at buying the big board.
Yeah. But just going to be slow, so, I mean, we had that initial swap, but what with the invasions coming out, they swap back, so we're not going to have the tower takes, and oh! Okay.
I'm done, Achilles.
We have a pause.
I'm done tonight. Sorry, guys. It's over. It's over for me.
Well, at least we have Hangman. If it really comes down to it. No idea.
Arrow has now left the game.
Okay. It's always something on the side of KT. Was Score before, now it's Arrow.
Yeah. So, yeah, Arrow now apparently having some potential issues. We'll see if he gets back into the game quickly. I don't know if this is a continuation of the previous issues or if this is a brand new issue. It's an exciting day of delays.
I'm just hoping that if there needs to be another computer swap this time, they don't actually have to mine and smelt the ore to forge the PC case and the parts and create the CPU from hand using tools from the Stone Age. But you never know.
They, I don't know why you would be forging iron with tools from the Stone Age. It's actually like, from the Iron Age. Just saying. I'm trying to elaborate on how silly everything is. Nothing makes sense. That definitely doesn't make sense. So yes, I concur with your analogy. What I was going to say though about this game that I find interesting is that Score, we've seen Kindred fall off. Since the 6-11 Kindred nerfs, really hasn't been that popular of a pick. But yeah. I think as a situational pick, this was actually brilliant by KT. And I really like the way that they are saying, okay, you're not going to have any tanks, so as long as we can survive your burst, we will have enough tankiness with the Shen, and Vlad will be able to lifesteal his way up, and probably Jhin is not going to be anywhere near Jin Air.
Yeah.
So he'll be able to fire from long range, and that once they use all their cooldowns, if the cooldowns are used on top of the Lamb's Respite, well, they got nothing left, right?
Yeah.
They'll have some shields from Karma and some speed, of course, the Sivir Karma combination. But when it comes to extended battles, that's not going to be Jin Air Composition's forte here. And so KT should be able to beat them in a prolonged combat situation. So when they see the Malzahar come in, that's where they're going for it. And actually just works really well against Jin Air's comp as a whole.
Yeah.
What we're going to have to really look at in these team fights is Score's use of Lamb's Respite. And Score has been an excellent Kindred player traditionally, so I expect it to be good.
I would have to agree with you. I mean, but also Jin Air they need to be more proactive this time around. They can't just sit back and try to play for, the super late game. They need to make some moves early on, because otherwise that Shen is just going to become an impenetrable fortress of a person. Like, you cannot kill him. He just takes so much damage. The Stand United will be doing a massive amount of shielding on your enemies, but of course Kindred's just going to keep getting further and further ahead, stacking up the Q with the new interaction on the passive. So they definitely need to take steps quickly to get themselves ahead and then capitalize on top of that. Something that we saw that teams weren't able to do last night with MVP and Longzhu, where it was very much juggled back and forth. Jin Air need to be able to get a lead and then maintain it if they want to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a concern, right? We talked about the statistics before this, but the ability for Wing to get first blood is worst among junglers in this league.
Yes. Score
is among the best. And that synergy between Ssumday and Score, where even Ssumday has a hugely high first blood percentage for a top laner. And this is a composition that Jin Air is hoping to win in lane with Malzahar versus Shen. That is the point of taking this Malzahar.
Yeah.
Of course, works well against the Vladimir too, but that's kind of where they're looking at in this game. So it requires Wing to play around Trace in a way that I'm not sure he can. I'm not sure if he can. He did do it to a certain degree last season, but Score and Ssumday have definitely been like the jungle top lane 1-2 punch in this league.
Yeah, I feel like Jin Air did want to go for a Jhin until it was taken away from them because of just the armor pen and having that Shen have to go for a Spectre's Cowl first against Malzahar, having him not have much armor and then be able to get chunked out by that armor pen stacking AD carry would have been really nice. Sivir's not going to have nearly as much of an effect because she's going to go for those staple items like the Essence Reaver, into perhaps the Static Shiv or even the Phantom Dancer, and it's really going to delay the amount of time for her to actually be able to whittle down that massive tank.
Yeah, they did take Malzahar after the Jhin was taken, but yes, I do think that there would be strong synergy there if they picked it, particularly because once the Nethergrass comes down, it's just like free curtain call shots all day. So I just didn't expect to see the Malzahar in the top lane, and certainly that was Jin Air's plan coming into this game with the draft. They said if Vladimir is left up,
I would hope so.
And if they take this Shen, we're going to have some sort of counter pick involved. I'm curious to see how it's going to work. I don't have, especially with 4 minutes into this game, the flash being blown, I don't have very high expectations, but there you go. Arrow is still not in this game, so he has not rejoined yet. I don't know what is going on or what would be causing him to leave.
We're 5 minutes into a pause.
We're now 5 minutes into this pause.
On top of... I don't even know what we are at accumulatively at the moment.
Hour and 30 minutes.
Hour and 30 minutes.
It's the pause clock. Wish we could get that. Just the pause clock counter on the stream. It's certainly been high. So yeah, we don't know what's going on.
We need one of those things that says like it's been X amount of days since a piggyback accident, and then we'll just like get to tally it a couple times, and then we have to erase it and hit 0 again.
That's right.
So that would be a fun one to have.
Piggyback accident. You're just
Actually,
happily there piggybacking along, and then the guy who's giving you the piggyback just drops you straight on the pavement.
It shouldn't be days. It should be minutes. So it could have been like, it has been 9 minutes since a piggyback accident, and now we just have to
drop
reset.
Down our asses.
Yep. So I don't know. We'll get to start the clock back from 0 once this pause gets alleviated. See how long it goes for.
Yep. See how long it takes Arrow to get back into this game. Just another relaxing day here on the LCK.
Yep.
Chilling out in our tiny little caster room.
I'm just glad that these chairs are actually comfortable.
They are.
Because otherwise this would be a living hell.
You imply that it's not already. It is slightly less hellish than it could be.
It would be more hellish. So let me correct myself.
I'm just glad we're 5 minutes into our first game, an hour and 45 minutes after this broadcast started.
It's a new record, man. I don't think this has ever happened before.
I am quite impressed with it. Well, it's definitely never happened in Korea, I can tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of this in... Well, I mean, I guess if you go like way back, there were those really stupid delays that used to happen.
I mean, the Season 2 World Championship had an 8-hour pause, but...
Oh! Is it?
Yeah!
All right. We're back in. Fly having a good old laugh about it. I wish I could.
I think we've had many laughs about it already, Achilles.
I'm all laughed out.
Hachani is going to block the opposite direction, I guess.
Oh, Wing's coming in for a gank, though. Fly gets rooted. Does have that same queen pull, but has to use the ghost to try to get out of there. Flashes away as well, just so Wings can't follow up with one last auto attack. Nice little gank there. And Summoner spells down the Vladimir is going to make him that much more susceptible. And now with the no ghost, he also can't really collapse into that top lane should we have a fight break out between these AD carries.
Definitely a little bit tricky. Neither Wing nor Kuzan actually had to use any summoners on that gank either. Pretty big win in the mid lane on behalf of Jin Air. Now the question will be if they can effectively follow up on it or not. Wing doing a very good job of coming out ahead in the early phase of the jungle. More CS to his name, and also the first one to hit level 5, so see what happens. Trace down here will be actually leveling his W first, so just getting more and more damage on his Voidlings.
Those Voidlings, they can do some work. I remember, oh god, during the terrible reign that was AD Malzahar, those Voidlings that just rip you a new one because they just hit so hard. You get a Bloodthirster and some other big AD items, and suddenly too many of them are wrecking your face.
Yeah, I'm curious where he's going to go with this, because the Voidlings will be able to harass efficiently in lane as well as push quite quickly because they do extra damage to low minions, quite a bit more damage. But what happens after that, because he's obviously going AP here with the Lost Chapter into Thorn's Rings, the big question, and whether they can capitalize on this Shen or not. Shen does have his flashback up right now.
We saw Winged poking back and forth around the mid, was spotted by that ward in the river. So just going to take this Scuttle Crab, and Cloud Drake, the superior race of dragon, will be living longer.
The evolutionarily favored dragon. He's the most advanced form of Drake.
He's doing a good job of surviving.
Just getting harassed right now. Important to note, Ssumday has not gone back to lane yet this entire time. He actually hasn't taken virtually any damage. So he's just been waiting for quite a long time and keeping the wave pushed up so Malzahar can't actually chip out his turret. And
oh, here we go. That's going to be the Nether Grasp used. He's taking a bunch of damage. Minions hot on his heels.
This is interesting. I mean, this Malzahar really, despite using the ultimate, couldn't even force a summoner spell out of Ssumday, who currently has no items. So once he starts picking up a few items here, it's going to be pretty effective now that he has Spectre's Cowl. So not sure what the point of this Malzahar is if he's not going to be actually putting any kind of pressure down onto Ssumday in the 1v1 without his jungler showing up.
Maybe he'll just flash at the back line and try to get arrow. I don't know. But Ssumday, he's going to teleport back up here to lane. Has the Spectre's Cowl with a Null Magic Mantle in the inventory.
Yeah, really.
So just going to be stacking on that MR. So Pilot and Winged going to be his big concerns. For the next little while. Chei will get rooted straight into the curtain call. Flashes away on the other side. Pilot's going to absorb one of those. And they will make it out safely.
It was actually a really nice mind game by Jin Air about that magical journey, trying to bait arrow into hitting Pilot instead of Chei. Not following through with the immediate journey through the tunnel. And then having the Sivir take the most severe hits right there. But here comes Score.
Yep, Spell Shield's been used. That's going to be Stand United. They're really going to invest for this one. The Bard Ultimate comes through. TP going to be matched by Trace as he arrives. Looks like this might just be the disengage. No, Kuzan comes in the backside. They just blow him up immediately. Good roam there by Fly to show up and confirm the kill. Oh, he gets killed by the Hemo. He dropped the Hemoblade before I thought he roamed up. He dropped Hemoblade before he went through.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I look at the minimap.
Fly's still in the mid lane.
I was like, oh, wait. That's a Hemoplague.
It certainly was a Hemoplague. So
wow.
Fly just dumps it on top of Kuzan during his teleport. And that was actually brilliant because Hemoplague also amps the damage by 10% from all other champions. So by the time he gets into the top lane, he's taking extra damage from 4 people in addition to the pop that came right afterwards. So nice heads-up play there by Fly and the rest of KT, but man,
yeah, wow.
That was a late TP there by Kuzan.
Hopefully we get a replay of that one so we can check it out, because that really threw me for a loop. Because I knew that he had the Ghost back up, but I was still just like, wow, he got there really fast.
Yeah, it's just really funny to see them pushing onto the turret like that, and then...
Oh, Chei. Well, the W doesn't connect. So that's going to be that. Glacial Fissure was used by Hachani.
I mean, it was straight into the taunt. I'm watching a replay of it on my screen. Just the TP was straight into the taunt from Ssumday, who didn't give Karma a chance to do anything at all. As soon as the TP finished, it was a taunt from...
Wow.
He had about maybe a quarter second to do something before he was absolutely destroyed. Braum passive also helping to get the kill, so... Pretty bad situation and an easy first blood pickup. I bet Fly was quite surprised to see his name with the first blood in mid.
I know I was. So maybe he was a little bit less shocked, but still a very funny turn of events there for KT. But net themselves that first blood. Still going to be behind a bit though in the gold count as far as that goes. Trace has still been stretching ahead, as is Wing. He's now up by 20. So doing a really good job on farming with that Graves, but still needs to create some pressure, help get this Malzahar ahead.
Yeah, looks like no real Malefic Visions points here besides that first one, going for the silence, the Q, as his second skilled ability, at least for the moment. And Ssumday starting to take a little bit of harassment now. Trace will be building towards that Morello Nomicon, and again, helpful against the Vladimir for the Grievous Wounds.
Yeah. Definitely going to be good. Athene's on Holy Grail completed for Kuzan. So.
One factor we're going to have to watch for is the Malzahar passive, plus the Karma speed in these fights, because he's going to be able to get sort of a free ticket to the back line by ignoring damage and CC effects while the Karma speed boost is active, he may be able to get back onto Arrow or Score. And Arrow Score rather, may be the #1 priority for that Nether Grasp now, just so he can't place the Lamb's Respite. But again, that's going to be pretty telegraphed, especially if Trace doesn't have Flash.
Yeah. Lie, though, getting chunked out by Kuzan. He's been pretty aggressive on this Karma so far. We'll send him, or getting ready to send him back to base. Been keeping up in CS, though, but we can see he's got that Spectre's cowl that's looking for the Athenes.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the top lane build that Ssumday is working on right now, because he's actually, as you said, gone Spectres into another Negatron cloak. So I don't know if he's planning on it at some point, maybe going double cowl and just going for those raw stats early on. That would be pretty unusual decision, but I'm not sure what else he will be taking a look at right here. I'm surprised we haven't already seen the Rami Cinder come through.
And delaying that Sunfire cape as long as he possibly can, it seems. Just wants to be able to eat as much of this damage from Trace as possible, but even with both of those MR items, he's having a really hard time.
Yeah, Trace trying to solo the Rift Herald. It's actually working surprisingly well, but he is found out.
It's just being tanked up by those minions.
I actually didn't know you could do that, so that's very interesting information, but now Ssumday going to get some damage down onto the Herald himself. This is really dangerous for him to do, considering they don't have mid lane pressure, but they're going to get away with it.
Oh, Hachani there with a roam, and Score arrives to smite it out. He's going to take the buff.
Okay.
Thought maybe Ssumday would, to counteract the pushing power of the Malefic Visions.
Maybe they just want the lower damage from champions so that Score is a little bit tankier and can't get burst out by the likes of Jin Air. And that will give him more time to get the Lamb's Respite off too. But
yeah,
interesting choice. Usually, you know, what's interesting about KT is they actually take more Rift Heralds than any other team in the league. Which makes sense if you consider the fact that they play so heavily around Ssumday. But they want those 1v1 matchups. They want Ssumday to have increased 1v1 kill pressure. But it just, well, it's second to SKT. They're #2 to SKT. But they still take way more Rift Heralds than most other teams.
Well, you can see Trace trying to prepare for that Lamb's Respite. Does have the Morellonomicon completed as the first item, so trying to cut down as much as he can. It's actually the Banshee's Veil first item here for Ssumday.
Yeah, it's completing that immediately.
Interesting. And so now getting another Spectre Skull.
Yeah, well, that answers that question. So it will be a double cowl build.
And
he's just
double Cloud Drake.
Yeah, double Cloud Drake coming in. They're just playing as defensively as they can around the magic damage right now, but that's not going to give them a lot of respect to Winged. And what he's going to be doing out of the jungle, which is building a Ghost Blade as a second item. Now, Winged is the Graves jungler in Korea that loves to go for that Thunderlord's armor pen build to just explode people in one rotation of spells.
Let's get a Dusk Blade.
Look at this. So the chipping is working. Trace playing his old-fashioned top Morgana, top Graves playstyle of constant pushing pressure. And this is problematic because it basically dictates that the jungler must come up there to actually stop this from taking hold. And they're doing what Jin Air does, which is play a full press kind of game.
Well, Arrow's going to go ahead and flash that Bard ultimate. That should help throw a wrench in the machine here. Hachani walks right into the bush. Heal will come out from Arrow, keeping him alive. You can just see the damage from that Thunderlord's Graves, almost taking out the Braum, and that will open up Jin Air to push in for this turret.
Yeah, Hachani thought he was safe because he had a pink ward in the Tri-Brush, and he wasn't expecting the Graves to be counter-jungling and coming around through the other side of the jungle. But that was another typical Hachani face check moment where he just doesn't respect where the enemy jungler could be. And if they're trying to make an aggressive play onto your turret, you at least have to respect maybe the fact that the enemy jungler could be there. But there's the first turret of the game, and it goes over to Jin Air. So starting to get a gold lead, and they are succeeding in their...
Oh boy. That's going to be the Stand United use. Going to be matched by a teleport immediately coming out. Glacial Fissure not going to connect on the wing, but he will get locked up by the concussive blows. And he goes down. Ssumday taking away the kill. Unable to give that one over to Arrow, but still, nice little answer. They'll keep the gold pretty tight, but KT still need to make a move objectively, trying to get onto a turret. Score's going to go deep into the jungle, find Kuzan, almost gets tethered up. It's a bit of damage from those malefic visions. Hachani arrives to block him off, but don't think they want to stick around for that blue buff.
Yeah, and they can't. They didn't actually chain the blue buff play after that kill particularly well because they have the Jhin and the Shen in the base right now, but they still have Shen TP, so they are going to be able to get it. Score sneaks in there at the end with the help of Fly, so at least they were attempting to take that kill and turn it into another objective, and were successful.
But they're losing another tower for this.
Yeah, that's what hurts, right? Jin Air immediately decided to reassign Pilot and Chei into the top side of the map. They're trying to snowball these turrets, and that turret was low because of all the chip damage that had come through from Trace's Malzahar already.
So Jin Air making some good moves. I mean, giving up a blue buff for another tier 1 tower, it's a pretty good trade. So, gonna be happy with that one. And we were talking about how they need to be proactive in this early game, and also how, you know, a couple early Cloud Drakes could really benefit them because the often more proactive teams aren't netting those big combat stats or, you know, the objective taking stats as the Mountain Drake. So having the Cloud Drakes being the first 2 spawns is innately working towards Jin Air.
Yeah, at least for the moment. Again, how these team fights shape up is still a question.
Boy, Ssumday puts the flash away from the Bard ultimate. Will actually catch Winged. Going to get locked up by the Cosmic Fighting, but now they find Chei. That's going to be the curtain call coming out. One shot takes him out. Arrow just waiting, trying to find another target. The red buff is going to be there. Winged will take that one away. Not going to be able to get any more bullets, but now Fly coming in from the top side, trying to get onto Winged and Kuzan. Emo playing, not going to do enough damage. The shield's there from the Karma. They will exit, but they had to use flashes.
Yeah, a lot used there just to go ahead and take that red buff, considering Arrow was already prepped and primed in the jungle to start this play. Now they get a bit greedy because some days there and some days low, but as soon as the Bard ult is burned, you can't really continue this play. Chei has no backup at this point because Winged is boxed in by the Tempered Fate. Arrow right there gets a full view across 4 members of the team and successfully takes out one. Arrow is actually going for a different Jhin build in this game. He's going for the Essence Reaver crit build.
So not going for the, what has become really just the standard of the full armor pen. Interesting adaptation.
I wonder if he's doing this because I think there are 2 factors as to why he's doing this, Achilles. One of them is that there's a Bard in this game, and the Tempered Fate does eliminate a lot of the threat of the Jhin ultimate if you are able to catch him during that, and the armor pen build does rely very heavily on using Curtain Call because your sustained damage is not so great.
True.
And also, you're also not going to be able to use Curtain Call if they're running at you with Sivir and Karma speed, and instead you may have to be a little bit more mobile, more auto attack reliant on your damage. So that may be another part of it, is that the crit build is going to be doing more for just the odd auto attack than the armor pen build will be doing, and it is a better late game build when it comes to outputting damage.
Well, makes sense. It is a smart adaptation by Arrow. So we'll just be going back to pretty much the first build that we saw from Jhin when he made his debut. It was either the Essence Reaver or the Infinity Edge, but we saw several people going back and forth between those 2 items.
Yeah, finally, Ssumday actually going to build Merc Treads and then turn the Ruby Crystal into a Bami Center. So slowly but surely, he's getting there as this Shen, but he has fallen a little bit behind in terms of CS. You can see Trace working his way up into some real AP now as Fly is going to split push against the Karma in the top lane. Sivir should be winning this push, though. Just much better wave clear.
Ssumday will be equalizing that, though, with the kill and 2 assists. So gold not going to be too different between him and Trace. And after our 2 Cloud Drakes start, will be Infernal to be the 3rd one to poke its head out.
This is going to be a big one for Jin Air because, again, for them, it all depends on how fast they can burst people with this composition and use that big upfront damage that they have.
Well, right now they're doing a good job of just holding on to these structures. The gold has been inched out ahead by KT, which is something somewhat worrisome considering that Jin Air does have 2 towers over top of them.
Yeah, KT though, yeah, I mean, they're going to start equalizing turrets, as you say. Score even showing up in lane right now to help push this one down.
If Kuzan by himself, there's just no way to defend this one. So KT will net their first turret.
That's where the big comeback occurs. And when you take a look at this next Drake, nobody has a mid lane turret down yet. And Hachani at least has been there to body block some of these minion waves as Pilot just pushes and then walks back underneath his tier 1 turret. Meanwhile, they are going to swap Vladimir into the Malzahar lane. He is well itemized for that already, considering that his Spirit Visage has been completed. So either the Shen or the Vladimir can be effective. However, we'll see how fast they want to push this one out. Getting the bottom turret would help KT pretty substantially when the next dragon spawns. So it will be Death Cap second. It's been more of a common build. Trace going for a Rylai's. And just adding a little bit more CC to his kit. And he's going to have to be a little bit tanky, in spite of that passive, to be in the front line.
Jin Air Jin Air now grouping up with 4 in this mid lane. We'll get a good amount of damage in. Kuzan zoning them with a Q. Score going to take a hell of a lot. Standing United comes through in the end to keep them alive. The W from the Jhin, not going to find a root. They open up with a curtain call just to get a little bit of answering damage in. But that was a little bit worrisome there. Score almost completely getting destroyed.
Well, I love the way Jin Air is playing around their faster wave clear in this game, because that's what's done it for them when it comes to getting the early turret advantage. And it continues to work effectively. Basically, KT has been playing on their back foot, and they've had to play around the Vladimir only because it's been a Shen up until this point without a Sunfire Cape. And a Jhin versus a Sivir and a Malzahar. That's just... You're not going to win the wave-pushing battles in that scenario. It's basically Fly responsible for taking this out. Now, we do see a static Shiv on the Jhin, and this is going to be quite helpful for taking out minion waves.
Yeah, we see just using those traps as well, trying to blow them up as best as he can. Still going to get a little bit of chip damage in, though.
Every time, it's just a little bit more damage from Jin Air, and this reminds me a lot about as to how they used to play with Graves in the spring. It's like they've gone back to those kind of tactics to just bully turrets in the early game and make it a hell for Score, who doesn't know really which lane to go to when everything is pushing forward for Jin Air.
Nice spell shield there from Pilot, gonna stop himself from getting rooted. This is a very aggressive build here for Kuzan. Went for the Athene straight into the Rabbitin's Death Cap for as much power as he can get.
Yeah, this is the most common build we've seen on Karma recently. So getting a lot of raw AP just to give out some really massive shields in the mid game.
It certainly would be helpful. We've seen the amount of damage that KT is able to output in a moment. So Score barely not getting out of that one. The TP's going to come through. They pop on the hunt. They're trying to chase out. Hachani's blocking a lot of this. We'll throw out the Glacial Fissure to try to disengage them. Magical Journey comes up with Hachani. Might be the one going down, and he does. Collateral damage from Winged will finish him off.
I'm not actually sure why Hachani chose to go that direction towards Arrow, who had already used his root, instead of pursuing and following Score, who still had his Lamb's Respite up in case the damage came down. So it looked like Hachani actually picked the wrong way to flash.
They also had the Scuttle Grab available in that top side, so he would have got a little bit of an increased movement speed buff.
Yeah, Score actually...
But now, yeah, Score having to flash out.
Yeah, he should have been able to get through that with his jump. Not really sure. His dash should have worked over that part of the wall, but decides to go for the safest play. He was already mid-animation. He thought he wasn't going to make it over and ended up having to use his flash instead. So KT caught out a little bit just trying to defend their blue buff as Jin Air bullies their way into the river.
Been a lot of fights over buffs so far in this game. One in the blue buff of Jin Air, one at the red buff of KT, now another one at the blue. I happen to good old lanes.
I don't care about lanes, Achilles. I care about objectives. I like lane swaps. Screw laning, it's boring.
I just mean fight in the lanes.
No, fight everywhere else. Fight around objectives, Achilles.
There's objectives in the lanes. There's turrets there.
Yeah, well, if you actually take one afterwards instead of just recalling because you're too low because you were fighting in the lane.
Fair enough. Haven't been able to do that. Will be the Phantom Dancer here for Pilot. Straight in to that Mortal Reminder. Just needs the completion. I'll have that one pretty soon.
Should be Infinity Edge for Arrow, and those crits are going to really hurt Jin Air because they are going to have a total lack of defensive statistics with this particular roster outside the Aegis, which of course not going to be too helpful
Not against that
against
Jhin.
a critting Jhin. So going for the big crits here because you can just in one auto attack take a member of Jin Air down to 50% HP. With how squishy this composition is, I really like. Of course, does change if there's the Karma Shield available, but all you need is like one lucky crit, and you can really turn the tide of a Dragon Dance or a Baron Dance.
Yep. So KT just going to push forward, try to clear out this Vision in the Dragon Pit. Of course, the Infernal definitely going to be desired by both sides.
Yeah, be careful around the teleport war, though, because Nethergrass will be able to interrupt any kind of ult or teleport play that Ssumday wants to make.
Yep, as will the Shadow Dance, vice versa. Dash, rather, not Shadow Dance.
Shen's a beautiful, graceful dancer, too.
That's a rogue spell from WoW, so that's why that one comes to my mind. But yes, he is very graceful. As you and Doa demonstrated many a moon ago.
I don't think I did him justice, personally. Still going strong. You see Ssumday is fainting back into the jungle just to threaten the possibility here of a stand united. KT still just playing down in the bottom side of the river. Nobody really willing to commit to this Drake yet.
Well, Jin Air might just want to group up in mid, force down that turret. Would open things up a little bit more for them. Ssumday still sticking around up top, just going to get that wave moving towards the tier 2.
Yeah, Jin Air's patience is rewarded here because eventually their wave clear is going to be superior and they're going to force KT out of the river and be able to regain control of the pit, which is exactly what they've done. Great patience from them. He's going to try and steal this, it would appear. He's going to pop through and he's not going to get it.
Yeah, not going to get it. Wayne is able to take that away. And Jin Air find a way to capitalize here. Going to use on the hunt, but he's going to wrap around and protect this turret in the mid side. Make sure KT can't push in for that. Meanwhile, Ssumday is still splitting up top. Should get some damage in on the tier 2. Wave clear is there from Jin Air, though. Now they can just take that wave and move up and stop this Shen from getting any more damage. And you can see it's just not going to be enough.
He's on a place. There we go, and there's that passive
the
coming
root
through.
landed. Score's coming through. Silence comes out, and Hachani not going to be able to get there in time to get a slow with a winner's bite. So Trace does flash away to safety. Fly going to get chunked out a little bit there by Pilot. Looks like KT just scrambling towards his top side, not going to be able to find anything.
Yeah, Infernal Drake may push Jin Air over the top when it comes to burst damage to get a pick onto KT, but as a whole, the longer this game goes on, the more you have to like KT's composition because they're just going to get tankier and tankier and tankier, and Jin Air is going to run out of damage past a certain point to actually be able to kill them. So unless they can get a pick on with the Nethergrasper, find their way into the back line, and they don't have a lot of backline threat. Trace is not going to be teleport flanking on a Malzahar. That's just not something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And punching through a Shen and a Vladimir and a Braum to get onto an ulting Jhin will be very challenging for a Graves, a Karma, and a Sivir. Even with that move speed, the amount of crowd control you're going to be dealing with in the front line, whether it's the Glacial Fissure or the Sanguine Pool, tough, especially on a Vladimir who can Tides of Blood with a Rylai's Crystal Scepter or just Q you for a big slow. I'm not feeling it. Not feeling it, Achilles. I think like if Jin Air doesn't have a big lead right now, it's very hard for them to win this game.
Yeah. Certainly are those cataclysmic events that can occur on the side of KT that allows for Jin Air to find those big openings. Hachani could pull a Hachani and start giving over some kills. But
KT can definitely throw at Baron too. One of the big things that you have to remember about Malzahar is like Warwick, the Nethergrasp is a suppression, and if he Nethergrasps the jungler, that you can't smite.
Yeah.
And so you can smite steal in that particular circumstance with some ease. And sometimes we've seen on the very rare times that Malzahar or Warwick have been played in the professional scene, teams forget that, try and go for a Baron that would normally be relatively safe and get devastated by that.
Yeah. That's one that I don't know when we'll see again, Warwick. back into the meta. Had some other ones juggling back in here now. Irelia making her return, but Warwick has still just been
it's okay.
out of there for a while.
Warwick is garbage.
He's very boring.
He's very boring. Irelia is actually a very fun champion to watch with Blade Surge and exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you have like the amount of resets. You know, your
Warwick,
CC is dependent on your health pool.
Yeah.
Warwick is just
press R and then stand there and like howl a little bit. It's pretty bad.
woof. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys in 5 levels. Have fun. Try not to lose lane.
Oh yeah, those epic pre-6 Warwick ganks, the best.
It's kind of like Fiddlesticks. You know, just have a couple of those junglers that can't do a whole lot. I mean, Fiddlesticks at least offers the fear, but until he gets that Crow Storm, you're not going to be as effective as you want to be.
No, you're definitely not. And those champions tend to be pretty boring. I don't know. I guess I could use a little bit of more of the Fiddlesticks these days after the rework. It might be interesting to see.
It would be fun. Oh, wow. It's going to be Ssumday dashing forward. It's unable to get the taunt on the wing, but he's still eating these shots. But a nice Bard ultimate from Chei will interrupt the curtain call. And that's going to be it.
Yeah, we do see the QSS on the Vladimir already. So anticipating that the Nether Grasp is going to want to be used on him, and this gives him a little bit more insurance in case score is dead. One of the QSS was changed to remove things like Fiora ult or Zed ultimate.
Fizz ulti.
Yeah, Fizz ulti. But one of the things that it still does is remove suppression. That's one thing that remained unchanged about it. It's something that Cleanse can't remove. That's the only thing that it can remove that Cleanse can't remove anymore, I believe. In addition to Skarner ult and Urgot ult.
Yeah, it would be pretty bad if there was no way to get out of the suppression.
Well, it would be pretty bad if there wasn't a way to get out of Trundle ultimate, but that exists, so there you go. I thought Trundle ult and Fiora ult were in a fine place with QSS the way it was, because you still had to waste a slot as a top laner on QSS to deal with Trundle ultimate.
Yeah.
There was a price to be paid.
Or if you're playing against the Fizz as a mid laner and you're AP and you have to get a QSS, you know, same token.
Yeah, I love what we're seeing from KT. This is such an intelligent reaction. Early QSS onto the mid laner, early QSS onto score. These are the champions that are most likely to get targeted by Malzahar, to be in range to get targeted, and they need to make sure, again, KT knows what the win conditions of Jin Air are. Burst them down. How do you prevent that from happening? Okay, well, we need to get the Lamb's Respite off. How do we do that? QSS is the safety mechanism to get the Lamb's Respite off, to be able to survive the burst damage from Jin Air, and then grind out the fight after that. Also, Vladimir not going to be able to even be chunked low anymore, because as soon as it comes down QSS straight into pool, or just straight into Ties of Blood, or more Q damage, transfusion damage, doesn't really matter.
And he has the Proto Belt. I mean, he's had that completed for a while now, so it's just another little exit that he can use.
And what's top lane's answer? It's going to be GA.
Yep.
Arrow's answer is never to be in range of Malzahar, which is pretty likely considering he's playing Jhin. And Hachani doesn't care. So, KT getting to the point where their itemization has been very intelligent on how to deal with the Malzahar. Again, like I said, KT is the last team I would try and play Malzahar against, because they were the only team professionally in Korea to play Malzahar in any kind of recent memory, not going back to many recent or those days of Malzahar bans from like 2014. But recently, it was a fly special. Coming into the playoffs in the spring season, this is not the team that I would say doesn't know how to beat it.
Yep. It's sort of like when somebody tried to play Renekton in some...
Yeah, you're like,
really questionable. It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Maybe this isn't the guy you do that into. May work again. May fool other people, but it's probably not going to fool Ssumday.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, this is now the first little bit of tankiness that Trace is getting with this haunting guys. It's going to be the the Leandries in the end. He does have the Riley's Crystal Scepter, but that's pretty staple for the champion. But we're not seeing any like resistances outside of just health.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's going to hurt. Even the Graves, which would normally be a little bit tankier because of the build, we're seeing with the Duskblade and the Youmu's basically going for the Jhin build. Again, all about that burst. And yeah, the True Grit is going, or the Quick Draw secondary, whatever it's called now, I guess it's called Quick Draw passive, is going to provide that tankiness, but just Not a whole lot to work with. And now Zhonya's on the fly. You really have to respect KT, not only for the draft where they decided to take a less played jungler to deal with this, but just the build's awesome.
Yeah.
And I do wonder how much of this was decided in-game or how much of this was in the minute the coaches have before they enter into game while they're still on comms. They're like, okay, this is where you guys need to build XXX. Just wait it out. Be patient. Once you get these items, they probably can't even beat you.
Well, I mean, you're talking about how much you like the adaptation in the draft with the addition of the Kindred, so very good chance that all of this was communicated to them by the coach. And you can see Ssumday, he's going for that big split push build. He's got that Titanic Hydra.
Why not? I mean, get some AoE in your build right there.
I prefer the Triforce, but...
No, I like this much better against... And Triforce is awesome. I love how Smep did that, but this particular build, I think, given the scenario that they're in, and they realize that the only thing Jin Air has left right now is a pressure game, and they also know that Ssumday's probably not going to die because he is getting tanky enough. Didn't actually go for the GA yet, but as his next item.
Got a Thornmail instead. Just mitigating all that damage from Wing. Pilot. Big curtain call opening up here. Pilot's going to take one shot. Bard ultimate does get used. I think it caught Arrow, or it's called Score actually. So Arrow did evade that one, but now the re-engage coming through. The Kindred play still taking on the Pilot, takes a bit of damage. Kuzan has to flash away with that shield and try to speed him up. Chei gonna fail flash, doesn't make it into the Raptor Pit. He's gonna pay for that one with his life as Arrow finishes him off from long range. Nicely played here by KT so far. Just little micro mistakes by Jin Air. They lose their support.
Oh, they just waited out the Bard ultimate, and Jin Air feinted too far forward, trying to threaten Score, but Score popping out of that Bard ultimate pretty quickly thereafter, and then they just turned the tables without that form of CC in there. Trace looking for something on the side, but he's not going to be able to stop. Fly on the flank.
Yeah, Fly's coming down. They get straight in onto Kuzan to absolutely blow him up. Arrow finds the kill. Takes a bunch of damage in return for the collateral damage, but he will stay alive. That's going to be the Nether Grasp on the Ssumday. Getting worked out pretty well, but he will be able to walk out with his life. Curtain Call's going to find a couple, and Arrow still takes out Wing.
Yeah, hits a big crit onto Pilot at the end there. Pilot is going to force his way through, try and take out this turret. He's going to be able to get it. Johnny trying to delay right now. He's got his Unbreakable up. Right. He's okay. Fly.
Okay, Fly's coming down from the bottom side. Now here comes somebody actually TP'd back in, looking for the dash. Spell Shield comes up and actually won't even connect.
Yeah, you're not going to get much there. I think he was hoping to hit the dash and then get an auto attack in to set up for a Jhin route.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get it. I mean, he knew the Spell Shield was up.
Well, this was pretty extended, so we'll take another look at this one.
Yeah, the curtain call starting off. Actually, it didn't look like the Bartle was actually going to hit Arrow right there, but then they overcommit with the speed boost already dried up and Fly on the flank, and then Ssumday going to teleport in on top of Hachani here. Hachani does, unfortunately, take a little bit of a deviation right there, so Ssumday never really able to get into range. KT going to keep on pushing, then they start to fall back towards the Baron pit. They are going to start this one up. So we see the rest of Jin Air. Command Pilot is still a major threat onto the back line. Arrow is going to take a little bit too much damage. On the flank right here, they catch out Kuzan early on, just blow him up. But look at the damage coming out of Winged onto Arrow. Absolutely massive. And Arrow can't walk up at this point. He's so scared of a Ricochet crit coming through onto him and bouncing back. They just have to retreat immediately. Somebody's going to recall and then attempt to TP back into the mix, but can't quite pick up another kill. However, Arrow 4-0-2, 100% kill contribution so far this game. Doing his job.
Yep, doing it well. And actually getting that pick on the Winged because he canceled the curtain call earlier on. Like you said, maybe not going to get hit by the Bard ultimate, but wouldn't have had it back up if not for that CD refund if he didn't back off. So was able to get an answering kill. Not sure what would have happened if he had stuck with it, but still good stuff and good moves by KT. Unable to get the Baron quite yet, but they do stretch ahead a little bit, 2.4 thousand as far as the gold goes. And Arrow really defensive for the Banshee's Veil as well.
Well, I think he realized that because of the burst, as long as he could cut down, because he nearly died to Wing's damage, and as long as he can cut down the damage coming out of Winged, or on the off chance that Malzahar gets back to him and will have to cast a spell first before actually going to the Nether Grasp, might be a bit of a save right there from the Banshee's Veil, so we'll see how well it can work.
Well, the first of the GAs has been finished. Hachani will be the first one to don the armor. assume that Ssumday is so close behind. Curtain call's going to be opened up. Wing takes a shot. Trace just going to get jumped on by Ssumday and score. They work him down really quickly. Chei uses the Bard ultimate, catches himself though. Fly and Score don't get caught up, and he goes down. 2 clean picks in for KT, and they're just going to turn their eyes straight over onto Baron yet again. Yeah,
this is the problem with this particular team composition. If you get to this late game status, and KT has itemized as intelligently as they have, there's just not enough you could do. Trace actually didn't even pop his ultimate right there. They're going to try and trade this for an Elder Dragon, but I don't think they're going to get it.
They already have Fly halfway down there. The thing's not even at half HP, and Jin Air have to peel back.
Yeah, Fly intelligently using his Ghost proactively.
He's just going to keep this one going.
He's like, all right, well.
Thanks for prepping it. We'll take it from here. And nothing that Jin Air can do, so Baron and Elder Drake now over to KT. And they have all of the tools necessary to close out game 1.
All right, Jin Air took a risk with this composition. I do think that this is a feast or famine comp. It's high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
If you get rolling, obviously the snowball would be absolutely amazing with Jin Air's composition, considering the mobility that they have and the threat. But once all these GAs and QSSs come through and Trace space checks a brush, and what's he going to do? He can't actually Nethergraph Score because he'll just QSS it, so what's the point?
Yeah. Well,
it's actually better to save that cooldown, honestly.
Unfortunate.
Oh, Score sold his QSS. Oh, no, he didn't. He has Mercuro.
Okay.
JK, Achilles.
He's just looking for more damage. Current call coming out mid. Finds 1 on the Kuzan, 2 on the Kuzan. Just trying to zone them off this turret so they can get the wave crashing in and finish off that tier 2. Looks like they will be pretty successful about this. Meanwhile, Ssumday's continuing the split, just keeping Trace busy, making sure he can't join the team. Wow, Winged taking a bunch of damage already. Gonna have to dash back.
Yeah, that's Sivir still doing a lot.
Oh, okay. Just might not used by Score. He gets picked off. Fly going in with the Sanguine Pull. Will get taken out as well. Winged finds the kill. That's going to be 2 picked up here for the side of Jin Air. Can they find more? This could be a big window back into them. Jake flashes forward. It's not able to get the Cosmic Binding, but Pilot gets closer. The root comes through. Hachani gets completely locked into the turret rubble. The GA will get popped. He will go down. That's 3 kills now picked up for Jin Air. Let's see what they can convert this into, because it could very well be an inhibitor.
Yeah, they're going to keep powering down it. People do not play against this Thunderlord's Graves build that Wing does very often, and they get surprised by the amount of burst damage he can put out. Score didn't use Flash, didn't use his ultimate in that fight. It just got destroyed, and now they're going to pay for it with at least an inhibitor.
Yeah, 20 seconds, 30 seconds still on Hachani. Jin Air might just be going for this one. Turn call will come out. Kuzan's eating these shots. Would be crucial. He flashes away from the 3rd one. 4th one will finish off Trace. That's a big opening here for KT. Now Chei locked down the last shot from Arrow. That was just the first bullet. Takes out Chei. They do turn this on its head, but now the inhibitor down in mid lane. KT, that very much going to constrict how well they can move around this map.
Well, they've got a chance for a reversal here, Achilles, because it is going to be a 5v3, a little bit of a power play here for some time. Let's take a look at this and how Score got caught. Now, he was low. He got hit by a Ricochet and the Boomerang Blade, and then just that's the power of Sivir right there. Ricochet crit with a Boomerang Blade, and the burst damage from the collateral damage with all that armor penetration is vicious.
Yeah.
So great finisher there by Winged, and Score just caught unawares.
Yeah, it was a Dusk Blade finishing off Fly, and then Hachani, just poor guy. He gets locked up there by the minions. Nowhere to go anyway. He would have went down, but he falls, and now KT, like you said, trying to convert this. Chei comes back up, has that Bard ultimate available. See if he throws it out. He's trying to rejoin the team.
There was only 1 super minion wave that they had to push back because the inhibitor had just been taken. Yeah. So it's pretty easy for an answering push, particularly when the Baron buff was still available for KT to use. So they will just answer off of that. So Jin Air gets a little bit of something, but probably not enough.
Looking for more. Ssumday is all on its lonesome, flashes away from the Bard ultimate, keeps himself alive.
Yeah, are they going to turn around now, though? Because they have a chance. Nope. Can't quite hit the Jhin route.
Yeah.
You're thinking about it there.
They have to answer this wave of the bot, really. So, we go get those waves prepped so they can try to push back, but might just be a little bit of a back and forth in this mid. Granted that we will have double super creeps on both sides.
Indeed, and here we go. A side push from Jin Air. They'd love to get this tier 2 if they can, considering they do know that somebody's going to have to go clear, and it's actually, they chose to send Vlad down there without the TP. I don't agree with that.
Yeah. We know that he can get through it faster than the Shen, but still a bit of a rough situation. But there's still a good amount of wave clear here from the side of KT.
Dancing Grenade and the Static Shift do enough work, it turns out, coupled with the Sunfire Cape that Shen had to take him down over time.
Still sticking around for the time being. Fly, no, on the recall, and try to join the team. But Jin Air still not really going to be able to get any work done. And the mid lane of KT is starting to win out over Jin Air. Will be pushing in towards their base, so they do have to go and answer these waves.
I think it's important for Score to remember how far back he has to play in this game. The amount of damage that he can take while he's in the back line from Graves and from the Sivir is pretty intense. So he's actually bought a GA himself as a result this time. I really like the itemization we've seen from KT. I know I've been stressing that, but it is impressive to see them adapt so well on the fly. Sick pun on the fly to the composition that Jin Air has put out and the burst that they're going to be dealing with.
Still just having a couple mistakes here and there is KT. Just need to tighten up those notches, and I should be able to comfortably win this. I mean, they saw the significant lead, but
I don't know how much of a mistake we can say that was from Score, because he was killed nearly instantaneously, and I don't think he expected that amount of damage to come out, nor did he expect the ricochet to crit.
That's fair.
But I think at this point in the game, when you see the items, Essence, Reaver, the IE, Phantom Dancer, you probably should play around like it is going to crit. Thorn Veil down for Hachani now too, wow.
Yeah, just always assume the worst.
He sold his GA.
Yeah. Get that Thorn Veil. I mean, it had that the cooldown on it, so wanted to go for an item that would at least reciprocate some damage back over to Jin Air.
Yeah, that is important with both the Graves and the Sivir forming the bulk of the late game damage on this composition, although Trace is going to be doing quite a bit too with the Leandries and the Void Staff.
Yeah, has the needlessly large rod, which we can assume is going to be for the Rabbidan's death cap, so he would be pumping out.
Could be Zhonya's, we'll see.
That doesn't build out of that.
Oh, that's right.
That would be the Finnish Codex.
That's right.
All right. Right, with the bait and switch on the items. Just when you got comfortable with build paths.
Yeah, exactly. Mage update.
Time for the shakeup. Scores. He said board. This is pretty bold. Chei hasn't gone in to check this one yet. He will now pop out, gets a couple shots in onto this bard. Root will come through. Chei gets caught. This is going to be the crit call coming out. Chei flashes away, still has the ultimate that he could use on the Huntsman pop by Pilot. He will be able to exit safely, but still going to be a big hovering fight around this Baron that has respawned.
Yeah, nothing really too serious used from Jin Air yet, though. Bard ultimate is the one you really want to keep track of for Jin Air, because they are going to try and use that to close a gap with their speed boost from Karma and Sivir.
Jin Air starting to push back in, trying to get some vision control in this river and around the Baron. Will buy them a little bit of time. Ssumday has run up from the bottom lane, got the lane moving accordingly, and now will be joining his team.
I'm a bit surprised. We'll see if Hachani's going to go for a Frozen Heart next. I think I would have built that first instead of the GA that he had, because having that Frozen Heart for the start of these fights really does cut some of that Sivir damage down and make it slightly more manageable.
Damage in, actually going to get taunted and rooted immediately. Dashes back, still has the Guardian Angel available, will evade those last couple shots. See if Arrow throws one out, gets a nice big shot onto Trace, works him down to about half HP. AT suffered a little bit though. Ssumday takes a bit of chunk damage, has to score and fly. They will have to peel back and sustain back up if they want to stick in this.
Yeah, no jungler though at the Baron. Ssumday, his two globals, happy to go back.
Yeah.
Looks like Winged will be able to jump back just in time. Remember, no more Duskblade passive nor flash for him on this next engagement.
And a Bloodthirster as well. Looking for that big amount of sustain. Surprised that he didn't go for something like a Mercurial Scimitar to get out of the roots, the concussive blows, stun, that sort of thing, but just opting in for the Guardian Angel.
think he's just planning on dumping his damage and then not worrying about getting stunned afterwards. It does take time to stack up those concussive blows. He's probably already going to have basically QR'd by that time. So it may not be his foremost concern.
Well, now Ssumday back to this bottom side to move the waves. We have the Elder Drake spawning as well in 40 seconds, but of course everyone's going to want their, sights set onto that Baron, try to net that for themselves.
Very delicate situation for both teams. Chei has been holding onto that Bardol really well.
Oh boy, fly. We get engaged on as the Stand United coming through. Chei going to use that Bard ultimate, catches himself with it, takes a magical journey, but doesn't get very far. He goes down, Wing having to dash back, still holding on to that GA, but Fly is trying to change that. Plague not going to do a whole lot, but they still find Trace, who just gets popped. Score going to be the one taking away that kill. It's a 2 for 0 for KT. Looks like they might want to push up, just go for this inhibitor. Or they could just back off and do Baron.
Yeah, they're going to back off and do Baron. Ssumday still has his TP, so go ahead, get the recall through. It will be a 3v5 with a top lane tank at full HP if you go for this, and play it as safe as you can. And they're just going to go for it now, which just allows Ssumday to walk back from base.
Yeah, Ward is in the back of the pit, but we can see Kuzan. He's just pushing out that top side. Jin Air want nothing to do with this, just going to hand the Baron over to KT and try to stop the bleeding by not suffering any more losses. But KT getting themselves another one. We're at that point where the gold doesn't really matter, but still, it's 8.1 thousand in favor of KT Rolster.
Yeah, they're going to try and get the Elder Dragon too, and then make a hard push for a minute and a half. But taking a look at this, it's a nice open up right there, and Chei has to ult himself, and that allows this curtain call to sort of hit several other members of Jin Air, clog up the choke point immediately with that Glacial Fissure. Trace just off on the side, gets rooted.
He goes boom.
I mean, that root does a lot of damage, and you can see just the pile-on burst from KT Rolster, and that's, they don't have a tank.
Yep.
So it's what can happen. You don't have any tankiness, you start getting caught out like that, and everything just starts falling over like dominoes.
Well, now Baron and the Elder Dragon picked up yet again for KT. Let's see how much ground they can cover and how many structures they can destroy this time. Let's say, yep, finish the Mercurial Scimitar on the Vladimir.
Well, gotta do what you gotta do, Achilles. Just a little bit more sustain for him, I guess.
See, though, Kuzan still does a good amount of damage before getting chunked out. He's got his own Mercurial, so he'll be able to back off, kill some of those jungle creeps, and sustain back up. But still do have to show a lot of respect to those mantra Qs.
They've got to make the most out of this. They're not going to be any more powerful than they are now at 54 minutes into this game with both of the major buffs.
Yep.
And getting this inhibitor down, pretty important to KT, but you can see the poking has definitely been there for Jin Air, and there's really no poke on the side of KT besides the curtain call. So actually burning them down with true damage is pretty hard for KT, considering their, relatively speaking, lower range.
And you can't open up with the curtain call until Chei uses the Bard ultimate, so this is a little bit of a rough situation for KT to be in.
It's hard for them
having
to close.
both of the buffs, but you can see they're just going to be going for a split push. They have mid getting ready to crash into the tier 2 in a little bit. Ssumday now finishing off the one on the top side, so just going to keep presence in mid, keep Jin Air busy, take these structures that have been on the outlying ends of the base. So they go ahead and net that first one.
I also don't know whether Shen can actually 1v1 the Malzahar right now. With the Liandry's percent damage, as well as the percent damage from the Nether Brass,
he probably can.
He probably can't.
The Void Staff with the Rabbit and Death Cap, he's got a good amount of AP. So, yeah, I don't think he can keep up with Trace. He's just playing the utility Shen coming in, getting the taunts and everything. It's going to be the curtain call opened up just to try to shove Jin Air off the turret. Wing's going to eat all of them, maybe. Fourth shot not coming out yet. They're just going to hold on to that, get a little bit of a CP refund, but that will be the last tier 2 going down on the side of Jin Air.
It's kind of meaningless, right? The gold lead right now doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
And any kind of definitive team fight, you'll be able to take the game because both teams lack any kind of mid lane inhibitor turret to stop the enemy. So taking down the 2 outers on the sides, not very consequential because you're likely not even going to be pushing down those lanes at any point in this game. So seems, Achilles, we are destined to go for yet another Baron in this game because that's really, I think, how things have to end. Baron buff just falling off now onto Hachani. And there's the adjustment. Trinity Force and Trinity Force for Score and Ssumday.
Well, we're in it for the long haul, Monty. So, Papa Smithy, if you're listening, please go to my house and feed my cat. Because I'm sure she's very hungry at this point, and I will be here all night.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, QSS sold, so going for damage, and Greenwings picked up now for Ssumday, getting even more armor. Okay.
I mean, I guess he's just going to avoid splitting against Trace at all costs.
It's very interesting. He's going for the Randuins instead of the Sunfire Cape, so figure he has enough wave clear with the combination of the Titanic Hydra and the Trinity Force, and is now adjusting so that he can hopefully get on top of the 280 carries with the Randuins active.
Who needs boots? Not this ninja.
Yeah, not this ninja. Just sell everything. Same thing with Score. Nobody needs boots. Not even our Jhin, who has sold his boots for a Lord Dominic's regard. Bold, I would say.
That's really...
Considering you have neither a Sivir nor a Karma, and you are against both.
Yeah.
To sell all your boots.
You're already pretty immobile with boots, so not having them
Bold.
is very bold. Maybe they're just having this really weird delusion where they think they're playing Cassiopeia.
I don't even think the Lord Dominic's regard is a useful item right here, Achilles, because of the lack of tankiness on Jin Air.
There's a Zhonya's and a GA and a Chain Vest.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of HP.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's actually the most efficient item in this particular circumstance. I honestly wonder whether going for a Maw here would be better.
Yeah, I mean, big...
Because it's flat armor penetration, and at least it would give you more survivability. So
yeah.
I would say Maw is probably the better item, but I would have to do the math on it, and I can't do that right now.
Well, Baron coming up in a minute. So Baron will be spawning right around the 60-minute mark.
Oh boy, Baron number 3.
Hell yeah. It's 10:38.
That's right.
And we're finishing. We're
Are
actually
we?
not even sure when we're finishing.
Are we
up
finishing
game
Achilles? I don't know. I don't know if we are. It depends on whether one team dies, because it's all about the team fight. It's not about the Baron at all. It's about how many people die right here and whether either team can just push in and win. So I expect...
Well, everybody's taking their time right now.
I expect this Baron dance to be quite protracted.
Wave crashing in the bottom. Kuzan has to answer. Does have TP. Top's moving in favor of KT for the moment. Actually, looks like Jin Air will have that one bouncing back towards them, so that does have to be cleared. But Baron now up in 10 seconds. 10 steps in the air.
Nobody's has boots anymore. Neither Wing nor Pilot do.
Shoes are out of fashion.
Shoes off, man. It's getting serious.
Well, you can see so far longest game time, hour and 9 minutes.
That's right.
So, a minute and 9 seconds. That's the longest game that we've seen.
Not even as long as our pause today, Achilles.
Nope.
For shame.
Our pause is longer than the longest game. Oh, man. I think hour 16 was the longest last time. But ultimate gets thrown out. I sure that found Score, but here comes the stand united coming in. Wing already getting jumped low. GA will get popped. Chei has to flash out. Gets knocked up, though. Looks like he will go down. Fly finds the kill. Wing, it is loads up on the backside. He's going to fall. That's a double kill for the Vladimir. Nice taunt right there by Ssumday with the flash. Finds Kuzan, who will go down. Score going to get revived by that GA of his own. So far, it's a triple kill for Fly. He will die in the end, but Pilot is going to pay the ultimate price for it. 6 on the lamp for a spite, but there's nowhere to go. No way to live. He falls down. It's just Trace and KT. Probably can't win because they're all low. There's no wave.
There is no wave, Achilles, and yes, you're right. They actually can't tank it right now. Ssumday is going back to clear it out and to try and push up, but Trace will be able to poke with the Malefic Visions. So is this actually the end of the game? The answer is probably yes eventually.
How about that one? They're both recalling. So
we have 40 seconds.
KT says, no, this is not. Ssumday does
no,
have
no,
TP.
No, they're still in base.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
Ssumday has TP.
They still have TP. Score is back up to full HP. He dropped back.
It's 40 seconds on Violet,
Yeah,
20
this
on
is
Winged, 30 on Kuzan. They should be able to finish this one out. Curtain call coming out. This one.
Trace with the fancy dancing.
Oh,
Well,
fancy enough.
he blocked it with his passive.
All right, well, he got 1 out of 4. Board ultimate used to just eat up the turret. Doesn't get the second one, though, so they turn straight onto that. Hachani will get locked up, but they just pile onto Trace's face. They work through that Guardian Angel. He goes down. Wow, big shot from Arrow. That was disgusting to watch. Winged comes back up, goes right back down. It's actually somehow still alive. I don't know how he managed
Score
to stay
dies.
alive.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
All right, so KT does the smart thing, and as soon as they see Score go down, they have to back off. They took out Trace, so that there's not going to be a game-winning play here from Jin Air, but they can't quite actually win this game. So the delay from the Bard ultimate actually did prove crucial, because that second Nexus turret was very low, and the time it took them to switch targets actually made quite a bit of a difference. Also, Wing not dying made a huge difference.
How did this happen?
I don't even know how Wing didn't die right there.
He was like in the thick of them for so long.
I mean, all the GAs are down right now, pretty much across the board. In fact, all the GAs are down across the board.
Yeah. I just don't understand how he didn't die. But now Jin Air, they're going to start up this Baron. Scores down for 30 seconds.
This
There's
is
no
risky.
smite.
They could get backdoored really easily. But Shen doesn't have TP. Oh, that's so smart by Jin Air then.
Oh, God.
They can't actually get backdoored, and they're just going to pop out of the Baron with the Magical Journey. This has been a weird game.
It's been a weird night, all right? It's been a really, really weird night.
But this game is really weird, quite clearly, as you can see from the draft, but just in terms of the way it's been played, too. Neither team able to get an advantage, and part of that is even when KT had an edge, they can't siege. They can't siege with their composition. They can't get close enough, and they have to play respectfully around the Graves and the Sivir burst.
Well, in the downtime, shout out to Pilot, 705 CS in 64 minutes. Could break the EU record.
Oh boy. Just what I was hoping for tonight, Achilles. You know what I said? I said, the one thing I want more than an hour-and-a-half delay is a new world record on CS and game time. So if we can hit both those things, it's just my dream right there.
Yeah. I mean, if we're tacking pause time into the game time, we've already surpassed it. We've already done it. We've gone the extra mile. We're gonna double down on this.
I mean, this game doesn't have to end soon.
We're 5 minutes out.
What is the thing?
Jin Air's not doing anything.
5 minutes out from. Well, we've always passed this season's record. We're 15 minutes out from the 80-minute record over at EU. Still some time to work with. But yeah, this game does not have to end soon, and neither team really has a good way to end this game. In spite of that big win from KT in the team fight, it's just slow pushing with a Jhin and not a great way to close.
Well, it's going to be our third Elder Dragon started up. Chei takes a good chunk of damage, though. Third call gets opened up. He goes retreating through that magical journey. Trace will get caught a couple times. He's going to have to cancel the rest of that ultimate, but Jin Air do get pushed off. Oh, no, still sticking around. Kuzan walks back in. Oh God!
So a lot of good.
I mean, he's got the GA, so even if that did pop him, he would be alive. But that would have been really interesting to see. But Jin Air gonna back off to KT. Do they push in, try to take this? It would be risky. There's still a couple members hovering around in the jungle. I guess we just wait for Baron.
We're waiting for Baron. All right. That's what's gonna be. That's what's gonna happen. I mean, the Baron is still up, which is hilarious to say. We're waiting for Baron, but we are waiting for Baron.
You know, this reminds me, because of how absurd this game is, of waiting for Godot.
Yeah, just never ending. You think it's gonna cut? You know, Godot's gonna show up, but spoiler, he doesn't.
On happening.
Spoiler, Godot never shows up.
Nope. Jin Air are going to start up this Elder Dragon. KT crashing down. Ssumday still up on the top side, has the Stand United available. Dragon's down below half. This would be a good pickup for Jin Air with that Infernal Drake's just going to TP straight into the pit. And that's going to send them backing off. Wing's still playing forward. He's trying to go for this one. Glacial Fissure pops up Wing, but the Dragon starts resetting. Ssumday up in the front lines. Going to get his GA popped as Malzahar works through him. Dragon ends up going over to KT. Ssumday has to retreat though. Gets taken really low. Has to sit on that Lamb's Respite, as does Fly. Score now in the pit, gonna hop out to safety. And looks like no one's going to die.
So close, but man, that dragon reset nearly sunk Jin Air because Ssumday was tanking on that front line, and they did take, it is worth noting, they did take a GA or two away from Jin Air over the course of that fight, but man, Ssumday nearly lost his life there because they couldn't quite kill that Elder Dragon fast enough. Now they have a minute and a half to work with, but no GA on the tank.
This is the funniest looking dragon overlay. 3 Elder Drakes and just a Cloud Drake.
Three Elder Dragons and 3 Barons so far in this game. And are we any closer to this ending? I'm not sure. No.
No.
Why?
No! Come on!
This is the game that Caster Tilt is made out of. Jeez.
You've got to be kidding me.
Achilles, it's been 2 hours and 45 minutes, and we haven't even finished game 1 of the series. We would be done with most best of 3s.
Oh my good God!
It's almost hilarious. I've never had a casting experience quite like this one.
Neither have I.
This is wholly unique.
All right, we got some replays.
We got some replays. You thought we were back in the game, but no. Let's take a look at this reset, actually, because this did prove pretty instrumental. Now, they get on top of Wing, and they are able to blow him up and proc that GA, while Ssumday is also going down here. But there's not much more besides that. KT has to get out. Ssumday just tries to dash onto the Lambster Spike. It's barely onto the edge with the Shadow Dash. So a really well-organized retreat from KT, but almost a dire circumstance for them.
I mean, hell, we almost had the end of the game.
Oh, well.
Imagine that.
The inhibitor's back up now, Achilles, so there's no more. Not that super minions even matter right now when we have 6 or 5 6-item champions on each team.
It was a short one, at least. So.
Still, not a lot of time on the Elder Dragon buff to work for here, and the circumstances haven't changed for KT. It is super hard for them to actually walk into this base and deal damage because Arrow's really the only one with any decent kind of range who can actually auto-attack or start to beat down the inhibitor. And if he walks into that choke point at the front of the base, he might just die. So,
just a reminder, we're a minute out. It's going to be Pilot getting grabbed up. Able to get out of there. Flashes away Ssumday, taking a ton of damage from that Malzahar. Getting chipped out. He's going to be the first one to fall as Kuzan finds the kill. They fire back. They get fly as well. KT have to retreat out of here. And Jin Air is just full-blown gung-ho pushing into KT's face. Hachani with that GA up running around, but Trace has that cutoff with the TP. Hachani's going to try to sacrifice himself. They're trying to get a kill into Kuzan, but Score and Arrow really don't have anywhere to go. They're just going to end up dying. And this should be the game for Jin Air. They can push straight down mid and end it.
Wow, Hachani going to die there too. And the big turning point was Ssumday didn't have his GA, and he got caught out by the Nether Grasp. Trace with a hero play at max rank. That Nether Grasp is doing 45% of Ssumday's health and damage. And so when he doesn't have that QSS anymore and he doesn't have the Lamb's Respite to come down, that's going to be it. So really smart targeting from Trace.
And time. We now have the longest game for the LCK Summer Split 2016. It's going to stretch a little bit ahead of the previous record, but Jin Air off of that big play by Trace. We weren't sure how this one was going to go. KT looking like they could have closed this thing out ages ago. Just get delayed with their lack of siege, and Jin Air perseveres in the end. They take out game 1.
That was a weird game, Achilles, but props to Trace.
It's a weird everything. Right?
Props to Trace at the end of that because he realized that the itemization had changed, and there wasn't going to be any kind of attempt to get out of the suppress from the Shen. So when you have a max rank on that on the Nether Grasp, you can do so much damage. And with the pool underneath it, the null zone, just doing a huge amount of percent HP. So found the weak link, as it were. Also, we can question some of the itemization from this Shen too, because he did go very heavy into armor, which opened up the possibility for Malzahar to do most of the work on his health pool, and then for the AD carries to finish him off, even though he had the Thorn Mail and the armor after that. I actually take it back. I can't even remember whether Shen